We've been coming to Disneyland at least once a week for the past 12 years as of this recording. And in the course of what must be 1,000 times through the turnstiles, we've learned a few things. And we're going to share with you some of our favorites. These are 8 expert tips to help make your trips to Disneyland a little easier. We're going to make you the star of your traveling party. And they include one that might upset more than a few locals for giving away one of their best secrets, so stay tuned for that. But with that, let's get started. But not in the park directly. Let's first talk about parking. Where does a Disneyland Pro park? Well, we don't park at Mickey and Friends. We park at Toy Story, and we take the bus in. I'm sure you've all arrived at Mickey and Friends and found the lineup of cars stretching out beyond the structure, sometimes out onto Ball Road. It can be a real mess out there. That pretty much never happens at Toy Story. In fact, I can't ever remember anything remotely similar to that happening at Toy Story. Very rarely is there even a long lineup of cars, and it's never as bad as a typical backup at Mickey and Friends. Not even close. This lineup alone could take you 20 minutes just to get through the gate. Then you still have to make that circuitous trip through the structure, walk to bag check, and board a tram. Maybe 30 or more minutes on a typical morning. At the Toy Story lot, once you park, you are likely going to be parked considerably closer to the bus than you would be to the trams at Mickey and Friends, comparatively speaking. Plus a little side bonus, if you get to the Toy Story lot before noon, you'll have your bag checked there rather than at the harbor entrance, which is nice. You just roll right past the harbor bag check and into the Esplanade, where you'll most likely be in the park before the Mickey and Friends guests have even gotten on the tram, if it were a race. Now, I know parking at Toy Story isn't as magical as parking at Mickey and Friends. Taking the tram is as much a Disney experience as any attraction in the park for some. But this tip is about saving time, making things easier for you, making your Disney day easier. So if that's of importance to you, do take this advice. Toy Story is quicker and easier, less taxing than the Mickey and Friends parking structure. We're going to talk about Genie Plus. Don't worry, that's not the tip. Everybody knows it works better than standby. But let's say you choose not to buy Genie Plus, and you're going to take your chances with standby. Take advantage of the Disneyland app and the tip board in Genie, or by checking the attractions list on the map in the app. The tip board is useful, of course, in seeing how long the waits are for each attraction. It's one condensed list. But don't use it simply to see which lines are long and which ones are short. That's easy. We're going to get pro level. The expert tip here is in looking for extremes. You see, Genie is very slow to react. Slower than guests are in real time, for sure. They want you to think it's enhanced AI, but it's simply not. It's the opposite of enhanced AI, quite literally. For example, when a guest sees that Space Mountain is only a 30-minute wait in the app, that's a call to action. And so in about 5 or 10 minutes, a river of guests will have flowed into the queue after seeing, such a short wait. In that time, the actual wait time will climb, 20 or 30 minutes, maybe more. But the wait time hasn't changed yet. The wait time on the app is still going to show 30 minutes, like this. For example, just saw Space Mountain on the tip board at 10:22 a.m. at 30 minutes. I feel like that's a low wait time. I feel like that's an attractive wait time. People are going to want to flock to that attraction right now. We are currently passing in front of Big Thunder on our way out of Frontierland. Should be about a 5-minute walk. Let's see what happens. We were through the threshold downstairs at 10:27, and we are reaching the back of the queue here at 10:29. This is going to be more than 30. They're growing the queue. We're too late. I can already tell, even though we haven't got to the vehicle yet, we're not even close. They're growing the queue. We're too late. $10.40. 10:48.
10:53. 11:04. And that's our boat at 11:11. 44 minutes all in. Meanwhile, posted standby has jumped to 65 minutes in that time.
So you never know where you are when you see that 30 minutes on the app. You never really know where you are in that little bubble period. Difficult to judge. Now, the same is true in the opposite way. If the app is showing the wait for space is, let's say, 120 minutes, that's a call to action to stay away. And so over a period of maybe 15 or 20 minutes, guests will stop getting in the queue. The queue will continue to shrink for as long as the wait board shows that super high 120-minute wait. Trick here is to do the opposite. The call to action is to stay away when it's low, unless, of course, you're already right there. If you're within a couple of minutes walk, then go ahead and give it a try. Or when the wait time is high, do a drive-by. Walk to the queue. Check it out. At least look and see where the lightning lane queue is. Like this.
For now, we're going to go to Goofy Sky School, where the posted wait time is 45 minutes. Lightning lane, though, isn't too bad. Again, we have not seen very many long lightning lane queues. Typically, when we come by here at Goofy Sky School, the queue is coming out all the way, out here into this walkway, and that's a real drag for standby. So now you can see standby's actually got some movement to it. It is pretty lengthy, though. It's out here in the garden, but at 45, that's a queue that says maybe stay away, and you might get a few people not coming in. So maybe if you waited a little bit, maybe go do something else. Maybe go do Golden Zephyr or the Jumping Jellyfish or the Slow Symphony Swings. Come back and find this queue is a little less than it was. But I'll bet you come back here in 10 minutes and this will be gone. It'll be into this section. All right, we're back at Goofy Sky School. We came back 8 minutes later. It is 3:10. And my wish was granted. They kept it at 45 minutes. So the standby wait time has not gone down, which is more of a deterrent, and boom. Look at that. That's gone, and yeah, they've processed all of that back there, and then this lane right here, and look, there's no lightning lane, so lightning lane hasn't been intruded on. So the standby, that was the queue to get in there right now, right now it is. This is a great time to get in this queue, because that is not 45, that is 20.
To sort of put a bow on this, what I'm suggesting is you're more likely to catch a shorter wait, relatively speaking, based on how busy the park is on a given day, by doing the opposite of what the app shows. You're more likely to find a discount by looking at high wait times than you are to actually cash in on a displayed low wait time. If the app says rise is 45, it's probably already too late. You need to be within a 5-minute walk maybe to catch that short queue, if you're not already too late. If the app says 120, now might be a good time to look in on that queue. Look where the back of the queue is. Look to see if there are still a lot of guests in Lightning Lane. This applies to rides like Indiana Jones, Space Mountain, and Big Thunder as well. Each attraction has its own threshold, its own limit to how high standby will get before people start staying away. For example, Space Mountain, that threshold, the limit might be 120 minutes, and then people start staying away. Big Thunder, it's closer to 60. You hardly ever see a standby wait time more than that. So 60 is the threshold. 60 might be an opportunity for Big Thunder, but it is not for Space Mountain. 60 is quite standard. Finally, like all of the tips you're going to see in this video, it's not foolproof, but it is a strategy that I have tested in the past, and it at least works better or more often than it doesn't. And it's definitely better than just blindly getting in queues. Okay, we've got a tip for those looking to catch one of the big live shows, Fantasmic, World of Color, parades. Put simply, wait for the second show. Skip the first show, catch the second show. It's human nature to try and catch that first show. Thus, demand is always higher. Guests start lining up hours before that first Fantasmic, before that first parade. Even standby for World of Color, hours before. So there's a lot more competition for a decent viewing location. I'm not even talking about prime viewing locations, decent viewing locations. Meanwhile, While all those guests are waiting for the parade, you've got a little less competition in the rest of the park. Great time to hit Pirates or Haunted Mansion. Without fail, the second show will have considerably less demand. Actually, all those that waited for the first show, now they're going to be trying to hit their next ride. So now they're putting a bunch of pressure on attractions all at the same time. But there will be less demand and less time for guests to wait and to camp out for a seat for that second show. This is even more true for Fantasmic and World of Color, as their show times are just an hour and a half apart. Now keep in mind, this tip isn't about getting a premium spot. It's about making the most of your time. But I can't tell you, actually, in the case of World of Color, waiting for that second show could get you a premium spot. Most seats for World of Color are reserved through the virtual queue. But many guests who get a virtual queue spot for the second show wind up no-showing. A lot of guests who aspire to see World of Color are first show or nothing. So they get in the virtual queue, they miss the first show, they secure a virtual queue slot for that second show, but they don't go. That leaves lots of empty space in the reserved viewing areas. In many cases, just before the second show begins, you can actually just walk right up and join the front row reserve viewing. It's kind of amazing. Now that tip obviously is for those events that have two shows. Fireworks, those are just once a night. But here's a small little tip that might save you some time and maybe even a little more comfort for fireworks. Stand where the ropes are going to be. Folks queue up very early for fireworks, with the first areas to fill up obviously being in front of and around the hub and the castle. Then Main Street starts to fill up behind it. But there is a stretch of time, as guests are starting to collect around Main Street, etc., where cast have yet to put up those guest control ropes. For fireworks, ropes are set up to allow for cross traffic at the hub. Guests trying to get, from Tomorrowland to Frontierland. They're also set up on Main Street between Coke Corner and the Plaza Point gift shop, and then once more in between those locations near Jolly Holiday. If you'd like a spot where you're in the front, and that is to say there will be nobody for a good 30 feet standing in front of you, stand and wait where the ropes are going to be. Look for stanchion markings in the ground, as I mentioned, in front of Coke Corner and on either side of the hub for traffic into and out of Tomorrowland and Frontierland. Hang around in those areas. Then when a CM comes out with the stanchions and guest control ropes, after they put them up, you just slide right in, and voila. You've got a pretty nice view of the fireworks and considerably more comfort. Mind you, again, these are not premium spots. I mean, they're still good, and they may require a bit of a longer wait. They maybe require you to show up a little bit earlier than you might have just if you were just trying to kind of randomly fill in spots where the guests are on Main Street. But I like to do that. I'm willing to do that for the comfort. I don't have to wait as early as I would for the castle viewing, but I like them because of the comfort. I like to have that open space. Oh, and then one last thing on fireworks. If the show is projections only, that is, they're doing a nighttime spectacular, let's say, for example, the Together Forever fireworks show, but there's no pyro. It's a weekday. There's no pyro. Don't bother with camping out early for a castle view or even the guest rope trick. When it's projections only, the show is pretty much the same, no matter where you see it. So save yourself the anxiety. Okay, 4 more to go, and this one might be my favorite tip of all. The one that has worked for me every single time. One that could legitimately be called a hack. This is the mobile order refresh hack. You get a Jones for the Jolly Holiday special, grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup. You're hungry now, like right now. But the return time is in 30 minutes. Don't stress. Go ahead and book that time for 30 minutes from now. And then as soon as you do, click the change arrival window link. Now, the general intent of this is to allow you to change your arrival for a later time if you're delayed for some reason. But if someone cancels a mobile order or changes it to a future time, that time slot becomes available and it'll show up here when you click that button. In most cases, the time shown will be the same as the one you have. If that's the case, hit the back button, Then click the change arrival window link again and hope again for a nearer time. Repeat as necessary. And this could take a minute. It's not going to happen right away. And don't stress if it doesn't. Or even if the times seem to be going up rather than going down. Keep refreshing. That doesn't mean anything. At any moment, you could go from a time from 30 minutes from now to now. Like this. I do this nearly every time I place an order, and I can get a positive result every single time. I mean, sometimes it's just 5 or 10 minutes, but sometimes you get now. Sometimes you get the whole thing, and you really do. You feel like you just won something. It's a true hack if there ever was one.
And I will add that it's usually a little bit easier than that. That's about as difficult as it gets for me, and that was just a few minutes. And that's for Jolly Holiday, one of the most competitive dining locations in the park in terms of getting a mobile order window.
Here's a tip for those that don't want to use mobile order, though I highly recommend you do. But if you don't, or find that you're hungry right now, and mobile waits are an hour or more, and you want something standby and quick, and you don't want to use the mobile order app, opt for Buffeteria style dining locations. These are kind of a secret weapon when it comes to quick service dining. Tiana's Palace, Rancho del Zocalo, and the Plaza Inn at Disneyland, or Boardwalk Pizza and Pasta at DCA. Those 4 restaurants are quick service dining secret weapons. In the case of Plaza, Rancho, and Boardwalk, they don't even offer mobile order, which makes it even better. There's no competition. But it's the style of food delivery that is simply the most economical in terms of time, that there is hardly ever much of a wait to get your food. You just walk up and ask for it. Even Plaza Inn, as popular as it is, even if you see a queue outside Plaza Inn, don't stress. It goes quick. And it even works at Tiana's Palace, where they did find a way to put in mobile order as well. In fact, I recommend standby over mobile order at Tiana's, if only because at mobile they put your food in those containers, which obviously is not as magical as getting a plate of well-served food. It used to be that you could include Pizza Planet on this list, but they found a way to convert this to mobile order, and I hate it. It's another reason to avoid Pizza Planet as much as possible. They tried to do that at Rancho. Worked for a minute, they undid that, realized their mistake. Hopefully someday they'll realize their mistake at Pizza Planet as well. But to summarize, if you're looking for a quick meal that is still top quality and not mobile, Tiana's Palace, Plaza Inn, Rancho del Zocalo, and Boardwalk Pizza and Pasta. Now, let's get into a tip I mentioned in the intro. A tip so good, there may be more than a few who are going to be upset at me for giving this away. But I'm a man of the people, and I want everyone watching to have a chance to enjoy this fun little time saver. It's a great way to start your Disneyland day. You start off with a small victory. This is one I call the treat trick. There will be times when you arrive at the gates of Disneyland and find a lineup that looks intimidating. A situation made worse by the chance that maybe you picked the wrong line. There's so much anxiety when you're standing there not moving while another line moves right along. You're like, we picked the wrong line. And everybody in your group is blaming you because you said, let's get into this queue. I don't have this anxiety because I get in the same queue every single time. Gate 20. Every gate at the main entrance has a number, and every time I get into gate 20. I can feel all you all shaking your heads at me for giving this away right now. When you look at the back of the line for gate 20, it's going to look like every other line, but it's not. What makes gate 20 different is that tree right there. That tree sits right in front of gate 19, thus preventing anyone from queuing up for gate 19 beyond more than a handful of people. Invariably, as guests creep forward while in line for gate 20, they see that there are just a couple of people in line for gate 19. So they slide over there, leaving their queue. The queue you're in. The queue you're in now just got a little bit shorter. Now the trick here isn't necessarily for you to make that jump over to 19 when given the chance, though you should if it works. The trick is simply knowing that a good number of guests ahead of you will. So long as guests are leaving gate 20 for gate 19, you are winning while you're standing at gate 20. whether or not you get into gate 19. Now, sometimes guests from 18 on the left, they see the same anomaly and they'll jump over to 19. But that is the exception, not the rule. This only happens, guests moving from 18 to 19, only happens when guests in 20 aren't paying attention and moving over. Subconsciously, we see these gates in pairs. Gates 17 and 18 are a pair. Gates 19 and 20 are a pair. So long as there are a steady stream of guests moving from 20 to 19, guests in 18 will most likely stay in 18. Now, of course, neither gate has an actual claim on this gap. I'm just observing human nature. You are more likely to benefit from this trick from gate 20 than you are from gate 18. Also, it should be noted that there will be occasions when they open just one of the turnstiles. Sometimes just gate 20 opens. They don't even open gate 19. It stays closed. But really, even in that scenario, you're not worse off. You haven't lost. Your line will just be like the rest. Bonus tip, actually, you're still better off here in gate 20 than you are further down the line of gates, as those that are closer to the tram drop-off area, those tend to be longer. The queues tend to be longer than those on the Harbor Boulevard side. And this again is due to human nature. The majority of guests park at Mickey and Friends. Significantly more people park at Mickey and Friends than do park at Toy Story. Though perhaps not anymore, if you're following my advice after watching this video. But I digress. More people are parking at Mickey and Friends, thus more guests are coming from the downtown Disney side of the gate. Human nature suggests that guests will get in the line that is closest to them. They're just going to go straight to whatever the first line is they see, the first gate. But if you keep walking, if you go past those gates and walk all the way to the other end towards Harbor Boulevard, you'll find invariably the lines get shorter and shorter. So bonus tip if you're parking at Mickey and Friends. And those, Fresh Baked, are 8 of some of our best go-to tips for going to Disneyland and saving a little time. Tips that seasoned pros do every time they go to the park. And with these, you'll save time, you'll save some anxiety, and you'll take some of the stress and guesswork out of your day, leaving you more room and more time to simply enjoy yourself. Hope you enjoyed, and do share your thoughts on these tips or drop one of your own, and maybe we'll share it in our next volume. Otherwise, thank you guys very much for watching. If you like this show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Follow us on Instagram at _freshbaked, on Twitter at freshbakedisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at freshbakedisney. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked.